So now we can finally go racing on the Group 2B, the 1955, 1964 GT. And Dick, why don't you start by giving us the rundown of the track?
Patrick Long, car 123, a 57 Porsche Speedster, is on pole. Boulder, Colorado. Alec Hugo, car 491, Mill Valley, alongside in a Porsche 356B.
Alan Goodman in a 1954 Porsche 356. Jeffrey Abramson in a 1955 Morgan, affectionately called the Baby Doll.
Robert Stoker in Mill Valley, 56 Alfa Romeo Giulia 750 Spider. Daniel Schwartz, Bakersfield, 58 Turner 950S.
Greg Powell in a 1958 Morgan Plus 4. William Lyon in a 1961 Porsche 356 Abarth.
Qaid Maroof, La Jolla, California, 60 Alfa Romeo SZ, a 60 Porsche Roadster, driven by Dave Hagan of Calistoga.
Ranson Webster is in a 1960 Porsche Abarth Carrera. John Ganaway out of Carmel Valley, California, in a 1961 Triumph TR4.
Marnix Delaney in San Francisco, 64 Alfa Romeo TZ, that's the Tubolari. 57 Porsche 356 Speedster from Carmel Valley, Max Jamison.
Another 356 Speedster driven by Steve Schmidt out of Costa Mesa and David Hogier out of Santa Cruz in a 1959 Triumph TR3A.
Ned Speaker, Menlo Park, 61 Ferrari 250 GT short wheelbase Berlinetta. 59 Chevrolet Corvette from Pine Mountain Club, California, Ron Cressy.
Ron Erickson from Boulder, Colorado, 1957 Corvette. Tom Turner out of Danville in a 62 Triumph Spitfire.
Sean DeLuna, San Mateo, 56 MGA, 57 Alfa Romeo Veloci, Monoposto from Aptos, Lars Mapstead.
Charles Christensen out of Paso Robles is in a Porsche convertible. And then we've got a 1963 Porsche 356 Super 90 being driven by Michael Sweeney out of Carmel.
59 Elva Courier Mark I from Seaside, Frank Diaquano, Terry Cowan from Bonita, California, 60 Austin Healey Sebring Sprite Coupe.
Paul Christensen out of Sparks, Nevada in a 1956 Porsche 356A, and Richard Johnson from Menlo Park in a 1959 Alfa Romeo 750.
56 Porsche 356A driven by Edward Hugo of Mill Valley and Mike Leicester from Atascadero, 1958 Victress C2 Coupe.
George Kalfa from Germany in a 1957 Porsche 356 Speedster, and Ray Schubert from Los Gatos in a 1958 Denzel 1300.
From Woodside in a 62 Lotus Elite, Henry Moore, Don Tavini, Cave Creek, Arizona, 59 Porsche 356.
Rick Hayden out of Harbor City in a 1961 Volvo P1800. Rick Bill Rookledge out of Laguna Beach in a 1957 Austin A35.
From Danville, Jeffrey Abramson, 1950 MGTD, 58 Austin Healey Sprite. From Del Mar, Peter Smith.
And our two final competitors, Kevin Adair out of Fairfield, California in a 1959 Austin Healey 3000, and Ivan Lesnar out of White Rock, Canada in 1958 Austin Healey 106.
That is your starting field for the 1955 to 1964 GT cars.
And once again, as we talk about the fact that this track opened in 1957, these are the cars that probably would have been the early competitors as they were racing here in those early years, the first few years here at Laguna Seca.
I was here as a spectator in 1958, hanging on the fence down with the old turn 9, which is now turn 11.
So is this what it looked like?
Not quite. The field looked like that, but the facility has changed dramatically in the interim. Pace car looks like they pulled off and we are ready to go.
Exactly, and up front, once again, we have Patrick Long in that number 123 Porsche Speedster. Beside him, Alec Hugo in a Porsche 356B. They're coming up the front straightaway to take the green flag. Patrick Long, of course, a very accomplished race car driver, holds the field back just a little bit, then puts his foot into it, comes underneath and takes the green flag, and now it's going to be a battle into turn 1, and you've got the third place car that is trying to go inside, the number 23 car of Ron Goodman, trying to make a move on Patrick Long, and that is a battle of champions right there. But Patrick Long takes the right line, manages to squeeze out, and he is able to control the lead as they go through that first hairpin turn.
Wow, those three Porsches and a great battle at the front. Long and then Alec Hugo and Ron Goodman. They were three abreast as they crested the hill going into the Andretti hairpin before they sorted themselves out. Long held his line and was able to keep the other two Porsches behind him.
And nothing against Ron Goodman, but when you look at experience, Patrick Long has quite a bit. He is a factory Porsche driver. He has two championships at Le Mans in class. He has won Le Mans twice as a Porsche driver. So when it comes to experience in a car, he's the guy. Now, the question is the car better? And in fact, we got Ron Goodman as they're racing up the hill. He's able to take the lead and take away the position from Patrick Long, and that's got to make him feel good knowing he's just gotten ahead of that guy.
And I was going to say the Morgan Baby Doll got up in the third spot momentarily, but then had a drop back as the Porsche took that third spot back.
So we've got 3 Porsches and then the Morgan, and that's the way we're sitting right now. Patrick Long, the accomplished Le Mans driver, is in second in that Porsche Speedster. And we've got number 491, Alec Hugo, who is in third place right now with Ron Goodman, the 1954 Porsche 356, leading the way as they come down the hill from the corkscrew and get ready to enter that final turn as they go onto the front straightaway.
In SCCA production racing of this period, this time, Porsches and the Morgans battled it out in E-production. It was just a great battle between the two of them. Now that Baby Doll is not the E-production Morgan that would have run in that area. That's aluminum bodied car with Weber carburetors. That actually was bumped up 2 classes to C production, so that Morgan has an advantage. It's quicker than the Morgan in E production normally would have been. And you still got that good battle up front. Long is in second spot as you've got the leader, Ron Goodman, Alec Hugo third, Abramson is fourth in the Baby Doll Morgan, and the Alfa Romeo Giulia is fifth. That's Robert Stoker.
Yeah, that Morgan Baby Doll really was a special that was ordered by Lou Spencer, and he ordered it from the factory in special racing specification. And he was racing it. Man, in fact, he raced it in 1982 to the SCCA C Production National Championship. So think about that. It was ordered in 1959, but it was still winning an SCCA championship in 1982.
That was quite the car. An aluminum body, which made it much lighter than the normal Morgan. And it still had that big Triumph engine. It was a heavy motor, but they took the SU carburetors off and put Webers on it, which made it a lot more powerful than it had been, with oil cooler on it, and a few other things. And it was a very fast car, as witnessed by the fact that he won national championships.
We just watched this car, number 57, being driven by William Lyon. That's a 1961 Porsche 356 Abarth that was just able to take the position away of 6th place from a 1958 Turner 950S as they were going up the hill towards the corkscrew. The 718, number 718, wasn't able to hang on quite as much, and as a result, that Porsche was able to take the lead and it would take the position away from that 1958 Turner.
And that number 33 is what would be considered the normal E-production Morgan that's running in that group.
Yeah, Greg Powell is currently in 8th in a 1958 Morgan +4. Interesting, the Morgan look, the Morgan style has stayed as a very traditional build. Even modern cars are still coming out of Morgan and still have that same basic look. It's been modified and tweaked, but at the end of the day, it's very similar to the Morgan +4 that we saw running in its original form.
I owned and drove a Morgan for 50 years. What it do in San Francisco in 1959.
Wooden frame and everything?
Wooden subframe.
Wooden subframe. Yeah, it's hard to believe that Morgans had wooden subframes, but when everybody else was long since gone away from that. But it was an inexpensive way to put the car together and gave it a little bit of flex in the chassis.
A lot of flex in the chassis. Actually, if you parked one wheel up on the curb, you could not open the door.
That's really not a good sign, actually. Wow, watching as they head up the hill to the corkscrew, and some of the cars working really hard to try to make sure that they can maintain that as much as possible. That's number 123, the Patrick Long car. He's in second place. Ron Goodman in the other Porsche, just a little bit out of his reach, but now Patrick Long is working hard to keep Alex Hugo in that second Porsche 356 behind him.
That's the best battle on the track that we've seen. Long and Hugo, 1, 2, 3, and 491 to battle for second overall. And Jeffrey Abramson in the Morgan Baby Doll, car 145, just kind of lurking behind him to see if they make contact and perhaps take each other off so he can move up a couple of spots.
You know, the Porsche 356, the concept from Porsche was simple. They felt it was better to have a lighter car with less power than a heavy car that had lots of power. The concept was light but nimble, and that was really the inspiration for the 356. The very first 356 if you want to call it, wasn't quite a production car, more of a one-off car that was built back in 1948. That's when it got its first road certification. It immediately went out and won the first race it was entered in Innsbruck, in Austria. So they knew they were onto something, and they began to slowly but surely build more of them, and they were modifying them very quickly and heavily as they first went along. And of course, the really significant thing was in 1951, that 356 won its class at Le Mans. That's really what launched Porsche into motor racing history.
Still hot and heavy, that battle for second overall between Patrick Long at 123 and Alec Hugo at 491. Goodman seems to be pulling away from both of them in the number 23 Porsche, and he is leading this event. Other good battles throughout the pack. You've got an Alpha and a Porsche fighting. There's an Elva Courier up there, and it looks like they're chasing a TBR, I believe. Not sure. We'll pick up the number on that car as he comes out of the Andretti hairpin.
Yeah, that number 110 is Frank D'Aquino out of Seaside, California. That's an Elva Courier right there. And of course, right behind him is that Alfa Romeo. That's Richard Johnson in the 1959 Alfa Romeo 750 Giulietta. Great listening to these cars as they go around the track. Classic sounds of these engines that we've heard once again in the early era and now continue. That's actually a Sprite that's ahead. I believe that's Terry Cowan's car.
It is number 2.
1960 Austin Healey Sebring Sprite Coupe. You know, people forget that while they think about the Sprites, they of course always think about the Bug Eyes and the later Spridgets, if we want to call them that had the open top, but they also built some Sebring Coupes that were relatively successful.
They were very successful. They were lightweight cars, and the easiest way to identify them was that they had wire wheels, which is not standard on the regular Bug-Eye Sprite.
Now we've got another epic battle on the track. Check this out. This is a Corvette, a 1957 Corvette. This number 283 being driven by Ron Erickson. And that number 34 car, that is a Porsche convertible from 1959 being driven by Charles Christensen. But as you see, going up the front straightaway, that Corvette and all that horsepower just pulls away.
283, the number on the car. That's the engine displacement, 283 cubic inches.
And at the back of that pack is, you see that yellow, I believe it's a TR3 that is at the back of that. You think about, some of these cars, for example, the 300 SL that we saw in the last field. There's an Alfa Romeo and Ferraris that are in this race, the Porsches. The TR2s and the TR3s are a very inexpensive way to go racing. Back up front, Patrick Long is doing a good job of trying to reel in Ron Goodman in that lead Porsche. He is now right on his tail because Patrick Long knows how to run an endurance race, knows how to work the tires, knows how to learn from the guy ahead of him. So now he is hounding him as they're coming down from the corkscrew, starting to go into that last turn. And the question is, will he be able to set him up for anything on that straightaway to be able to move into a position to take the lead going into the Andretti hairpin?
And Alec Hugo is staying right with him. You got to remember, almost all of the cars that are running this race were actual production cars that you could drive on the street. In fact, in some cases, they drove the car to the track, took the windscreen and the muffler off, put numbers on the side, taped up the headlights, and went racing.
Yeah, and going away up of that front straightaway in the drag race to the first turn, you've got the Morgan making a move to the inside, trying to get that Porsche 356, but he locks up the brakes. The Porsche goes to the outside and is able to maintain the position, tucks his wheel off onto the dirt very slightly. The Morgan knows that he's fast. He's just got to figure out a way to get by. Meanwhile, we thought that Patrick Long might have something for that number 23 Ron Goodman 1954 Porsche 356, but on the front straightaway, Goodman just has the horsepower to pull away. So he was not able to take advantage of that. So there we've still got the Morgan, who now he's trying to take a look to the inside yet again of Alex Hugo, locking up the left front tire. He can't take advantage of the horsepower that he's got. So as a result, he is still behind. Now he's trying to make a move going up the hill. He is working hard. They're almost side by side, but not quite enough. And as a result, the Morgan will pull in, move in behind, and go up the hill. Now we've got a problem with Patrick Long. Patrick Long has his hand in the air and waving at the other two drivers behind him to go ahead and take the position. So Patrick Long, who was battling for the lead of this race with Ron Goodman, is still running, still under power, but he apparently allowed those two guys to move forward because he's had some kind of a problem in the car.
Yeah, he's running at a reduced speed, it looks like, as he comes down the hill. My guess is he'll probably pit, but as a result of Long's retirement, Hugo and Abramson move up to second and third in the Porsche and the Morgan.
But that Alec Hugo, Jeffrey Abramson battle is truly one of the best we've got going in there. We saw Abramson as he came out of turn 11 onto the front straightaway, hanging the tail out just a little bit. He is working really hard to get as close as he possibly can to Alex Hugo.
Let's see what he can do when they go down to the Andretti hairpin. He looks to the outside, tries to pull alongside. Not going to happen, as Hugo is right in the center of the course. Did not give him much room. He's going to have to tuck in behind. Let's see if he can do it again in the infield. Last time he tried it at the entrance to turn 5, pulled up alongside, then he locked up his brakes and couldn't go through. He had to back off and let Hugo get away. But in the meantime, Goodman has been leading almost this entire race once he got around Patrick Long, who has gone into the pits, by the way.
And there we can see that the Morgan baby doll, now they're side by side. The Morgan's got a lot of speed going in. This time he does not lock up the brakes, and he takes the position for second place away from Alex Hugo and heads up the hill trying to chase the leader, Ron Goodman.
He made the move on turn 5, just where I thought he would, making that inside pass. They're going to encounter a bunch of traffic going up the hill. They're going by a Lotus Elite now, it looks like, and chasing Goodman, who is on his way to the top of the hill and the corkscrew. Now let's see what Abramson can do now that he's gotten around Hugo. See if he can close in on Ron Goodman, the race leader.
And coming down through the corkscrew, Hugo has the lead, but Abramson Abramson has second. Hugo in that Porsche is right up on his tail going through the corkscrew, but once they start to use some horsepower, well, that is when the Morgan begins to stretch out just a little bit. Although I tell you, the Morgan's tail has been hanging out an awful lot as it goes through some of these faster turns. Now we're watching as it goes onto the front straightaway. Got it under control, and it's going to be the drag race. Let's see what the horsepower difference is like between the Morgan and the Porsche ahead of it.
They cross the start-finish line. They crest the hill now, begin their descent into the Andretti hairpin. Again, brake lockup big time on the Morgan. You can see the tire smoke coming off. Looks like it was the left rear that time. Well, he's got to flat spot those tires, but he's really closed it up on Ron Goodman. He looks to the inside as they go down into turn 2. That's not going to work, and he has to back out of it as they go under the bridge in the infield area. He's probably going to try and do it going into 5 like he did on Alec Hugo. They're going through 4 now, heading through that infield area. They'll go under the Mother's Bridge, and here comes turn 5. But he's not close enough this time to make the move. He's just going to have to tuck in behind Goodman and follow up the hill. Alec Hugo just stays there in third spot, waiting for a mistake or waiting for Abramson to overdo it perhaps so he can get back around him.
So Ron Goodman for the first half of the race had to watch with Patrick Long in his mirror as Patrick was getting closer and closer. And then when Patrick Long was gone, I think he thought he was going to get a break. And now that Jeffrey Abramson and that Morgan baby doll has moved past and into second place, he's starting to do a little bit of the hounding. As they go down through the corkscrew right now, I think that the Porsches have the advantage going through the corkscrew, but the Morgan seems to be able to pick up speed coming out of the turns fairly well, so that allows him to close. We'll see if he can get close at the very end, but now we're watching, once again, the 491 of Alec Hugo in that Porsche 356 as they come down the hill. He gets a good run on the Morgan, but it's not enough. So it's still 1, 2, 3, Ron Goodman in the Porsche 356. Jeffrey Abramson in the 1959 Morgan Baby Doll 4, and Alec Hugo in the 1962 Porsche 356 as they come up the hill.
Oh, and somebody got a furl black flag. I think that could have been Abramson, and we are on the last lap. A furl black flag is a warning. Improve your driving or you will be pulled in for a consultation.
And it's possible it's a result of what happened on that last lap when he was on the inside of the Porsche trying to make the move. Now, he did get out of it. So once again, he locked it up and let the other Porsche move ahead, but he was working it really hard. I think it just boils down to Abramson is so close. He sees that he can get within range. He can almost smell the exhaust fumes, but he just doesn't have enough to be able to pull it off. And now with all the back markers, the question is the back marker going to help or hurt Abramson? And I think in this case, they got a back marker between them, so that's not going to help him. But in fact, Alec Hugo is trying to take advantage of that situation. For a moment, he was trying to see if there was a way to thread the needle between the two of them, but instead he just tucked in back behind that number 145 of the Morgan. And as they go up the hill, the question is, are they going to be able to get around all these back markers so they can go through the corkscrew cleanly? But it looks like they will, so they will just be able to continue to do battle. But meanwhile, Goodman has stretched out his lead as a result of these back markers.
Yeah, it's allowed him to pull away, but he's running into more traffic as it is. Evidently, the stewards must have thought that Abramson's driving was a bit too aggressive. That's why he got the warning, the furled black flag. Coming off the hill, no change. It's still Goodman leading them down to the checkered flag, followed by Abramson and the Morgan and Hugo in the Porsche, going down into the final corner.
Well, Abramson has worked it really hard. You saw him each time. Sometimes the tail was hanging out, the brakes were locking up. They were having a hard time trying to hang on, but they did their best job going up the main straightaway, going underneath the flag. And now that was not one lap to go because that was just the furled black flag that they got. So they're going to have at least another couple laps. And they were giving the passing sign, not obviously to our leaders, but to all the back markers that they're going past.
Yeah, that flag indicates watch your mirrors. You are being overtaken by a faster car. Give way. You'll notice on the Morgan, on the picture after the 145, this car ran in. So it's Goodman with about a not quite 3-second lead, 2.7 seconds in his Porsche over Abramson in the Morgan Baby Doll. Then Alec Hugo third in his Porsche, 1962 356B. William Lyon has brought that Porsche Abarth up to fourth spot. And Robert Stoker in the Alfa Romeo Giulietta running in fifth.
And here's the battle for sixth. We've got Ranson Weber in a 1960 Porsche Abarth right there, and Kaid Marouf in that number 138, the 1960 Alfa Romeo SZ. These two guys are going at it right now for sixth and seventh. Alfa Romeo, of course, a long racing history. You know, we know about the Porsche racing history, but Alfa Romeo, as part of the, before the World Championship, you know, they were a great car manufacturer in Italy, did a lot of racing. And when the Formula One World Championship started out, Alfa was a part of that from the word go.
Bigger motor in that Porsche, almost 2-liter. That Alfa of Marouf, only a 1300cc engine, but he is staying right with him. In the meantime, no change in that battle at the front. Goodman with a comfortable lead, almost 3 seconds, and Abramson in the Baby Doll running in second, and Hugo in his Porsche running third. Lyon did a good job. He has moved up to fourth. He started in 8th position, so he's moved his way up through the field as well.
Yeah, William Lyon in that 1961 Porsche 356 Abarth that we saw in the back there. But these three cars, once Patrick Long pulled off, these three cars have simply been the race. And Jeffrey Abramson for a long time was working so hard trying to catch up to the number 23. Combination of aggressive driving and overusing the tires. And he got a little bit of a warning that, you know, maybe he wants to back off just a little bit. So as a result, I think he's in a situation where he can look, but he just can't quite get close enough. And he tried multiple times, but I think he finally figured out it just wasn't going to work, and he was pushing the limits of that car on a regular basis, and sooner or later there was going to be a problem.
I think his goal now is probably to maintain second place to the finishes. We've been told that this is the final lap, and wow, Hugo goes out way wide, uses a lot of track and catches up. He's closing on Abramson and the Morgan as they go to the top of the hill. It's going to be interesting when they start down through the corkscrew. He's about a half a car length back. This battle's going to go all the way down to the wire. Goodman clear of them by about a second and a half. Coming down off the hill, here's Abramson in that blue Morgan. That's Kingfisher blue, the factory color. And now it looks like Abramson has gotten himself a little bit of breathing room from Hugo as they come out of the final pair of corners. There's Goodman coming through turn 11. He's going to accelerate up the start-finish straightaway, and he'll be looking for a checkered flag. He comes up the straight, crosses the stripe, gets the flag for the win. Abramson in the Morgan will finish second, and Hugo in his Porsche is third. William Lyon should cross the line in 4th spot in his Porsche, and Stoker will be 5th in the Alfa Romeo Giulia.
And this is the battle in the back of the pack. We've got that number 49, that's in 6th place. The number 138 Alfa right there is in 7th. And the number 718 1958 Turner 950S being driven by Daniel Schwartz. That right now is in 8th place, and that's the way they're going to finish as they come up across the line. And I did notice that there was some body damage to the right rear of Ron Goodman's Porsche 356. Now, the question is it possible that when the Morgan was trying to make the move, was there a little contact at that point? Now, I don't see any damage to the Morgan, but as you look right there, you've got some body damage to the right rear of the 356. So it is possible that they might have had a little bit of contact, or it's possible they came into this race with that. But I remember looking at that. That was a very close situation between them. But congratulations to Ron Goodman and that 1954 Porsche as he comes up over the hill. Once again, that Porsche with all the great racing history, and once again it comes away with yet another victory. And unfortunate for Patrick Long, didn't quite work out. Remember, Patrick Long started on the pole, but then Goodman on the inside, with just seemed to have more horsepower, was able to make the move going up through the first lap, and as a result was able to take the lead. And then from that on in, well, it was just competition all over the place, whether it was the Patrick Long car. But look, this is where they were trying to work so hard, where Abramson was trying to move up on the inside. And this was as they were coming up the hill when Patrick Long realized he had a problem, was waving everybody to go by, and he was able to work his way back to the pits, but unfortunately was not able to finish the race. And this is where Abramson made the move into 2nd place. This is how he got past Alec Hugo. And then he took off after the leader in the number 23. And that's, I believe, where they made a little bit of contact right there. And that's probably why he got a warning from the steward saying, you need to pay a little more attention. We don't want to get that close. So that's the way they finished. Ron Goodman winning the race in that Porsche 356. Jeffrey Abramson in a 1959 Morgan Baby Doll 4, and Alec Hugo in the 1962 Porsche 356B.
Well, that was a recreation of a 1960s production car battle, Porsche and Morgan.
Now, they were battling about over those 45, 50 years ago, and now they are continuing to battle here at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca as part of the Rolex Monterey Motorsports Reunion Weekend.